Today I will show you how to make a Cava bowl. If you're not familiar with it, Cava is a restaurant chain known for its Mediterranean and Middle Eastern inspired bowls, which are constructed by layering rice, salad greens, meat or vegetables, and a bunch of toppings. Now, before we start, in this video I will do my best to stick to the original Cava bowl and share how to make all of the components of my ideal Cava order. I'm talking about Harissa honey chicken, pickled red onions, hummus, their famous crazy feta, Tzatziki, basmati rice, pita chips, and Harissa vinaigrette. Now, I know it might sound like a lot, but keep in mind that you don't have to use every single component to make your own version of this dish. You can pick and choose or even buy some of it from the store. If you plan ahead and make the individual components a day in advance, you can put the whole thing together quickly. The beauty of this is that you can serve some right away and then arrange the rest in meal prep containers to enjoy throughout the week. To make it easy on you, we put all of these recipes into a free ebook, which you can grab following the link in the description. So, without further ado, let's make Cava bowls. The first recipe we'll make is Harissa honey chicken. If you're not familiar, Harissa is a North African condiment made from dried chilies, warm spices, garlic, and olive oil. If you have the time, you can make your own harissa from scratch. We already shared a how-to video which you can find somewhere here. Alternatively, you can buy harissa from the store. My favorite brands are Mina and NYC Shook. We'll start by pat drying 2 pounds of chicken thighs or chicken breasts and seasoning them with salt and pepper. Then we'll set them aside and make the harissa honey marinade. In a bowl, we'll add half a cup of harissa, 5 cloves of garlic, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, and 1/4 cup of honey. We'll give it a good stir, add the chicken, and mix to ensure that it's fully coated with the marinade. We'll cover it tightly and let it sit in the fridge for an hour, or if you can plan ahead, overnight. The second recipe, pickled red onions, is a condiment that I like to put on pretty much everything, and Cava bowl is no exception. To make it, we'll start by slicing a red onion and transferring it to a jar with a lid. Then, to a small saucepan over medium heat, we'll add 1 cup of water, 1 cup of distilled vinegar, 2 tablespoons of cane sugar, and a tablespoon of kosher salt. We'll stir it until sugar and salt have dissolved for about a minute, and then pour it over the onions. We'll set that aside to cool to room temperature, then cover it with the lid and keep it in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Our third recipe is hummus. I personally think that homemade hummus is the best, but if you have a brand you like, it could be a good shortcut. To make it, we'll mix 3 tablespoons of lemon juice and 1/4 cup of water in a small measuring cup. Then in a separate bowl, we'll add 1/3 of a cup of tahini and 2 tablespoons of olive oil and give it a good whisk. Next, we'll place a 15-ounce can of drained and rinsed chickpeas in the bowl of a food processor, along with the lemon juice and water mixture, 2 cloves of garlic, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cumin, pinch of cayenne pepper, pinch of black pepper, and a 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt. We'll process it until fully mixed, stopping and scraping down the bowl once for about 50 to 60 seconds. Next, we'll pour the tahini and oil mixture through the tube in a steady stream while the food processor is still running. We'll process that until our hummus is smooth and creamy for about 40 seconds. We'll transfer that to a jar and store in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Moving on. Our fourth recipe is my version of their signature topping called Crazy Feta. Essentially, it is feta cheese whipped with roasted jalapenos and onion. If you're short on time, you can substitute it with crumbled feta, but if you have the time, I promise it's worth the effort. To make it, we'll start by cutting 2 jalapenos. I like to remove most of the seeds so it won't be too spicy, but you can keep some if you like. Then we'll cut up a medium onion and peel 10 to 12 cloves of garlic and transfer them onto a sheet pan lined with parchment paper. We'll drizzle them with 2 tablespoons of olive oil and sprinkle them with 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. We'll then pop that in a preheated 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius oven and roast for tossing once halfway through the process to make sure they cook evenly. We'll set them aside to cool for a few minutes. While the vegetables are cooling, into the bowl of a food processor, we'll place 16 ounces of feta cheese, 1/4 cup of olive oil, zest of a lemon, and 4 tablespoons of lemon juice. We'll pulse that a few times to mix, scraping down the sides of the bowl a few times. Then we'll add add the roasted vegetables and pulse until pureed. I like mine pretty smooth, but feel free to adjust the texture to your liking. We'll then transfer that to a bowl and keep it in the fridge until ready to serve. Now this recipe makes a good amount of crazy feta. If you want, you can halve it, or do what I do, serve the rest as an appetizer or a dip with pita chips, crackers, or veggies on the side. Our next recipe, Tzatziki, comes together in minutes and it's a Mediterranean cuisine classic. We'll start by shredding a peeled English cucumber, then we'll transfer it into a strainer and strain all of its juices. We'll set that aside and move on to making the yogurt mixture. To a bowl, we'll add in 1½ cups of Greek yogurt, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. We'll give it a good whisk. Next, we'll fold in the shredded cucumber along with 1/3 cup of fresh chopped dill. We'll cover that with a lid and store it in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Next up is Harissa Vinaigrette, one of Cava's signature salad dressings. It is optional, but I think a drizzle of it is the perfect finishing touch that brings everything together. To make it in a mason jar, we'll place a 1/4 cup of olive oil, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, 2 tablespoons of harissa, 1 tablespoon of honey, 1 clove of garlic, 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and 1/4 teaspoon black pepper. We'll put the lid on and shake until fully mixed. Like the others, we'll store that in the fridge until we're ready to use it. Before we dive into the assembly process, I just want to mention something. When I'm making Cava bowls at home, I usually prep everything we made so far a day or 2 ahead. Preparing them in advance makes the assembly a snap. If you follow in my footsteps, I recommend making the rest of the recipes on the day you plan to assemble your Cava bowls. To start, we'll cook our rice. When it comes to rice, Cava offers 2 options. You can either do saffron rice or brown rice. To keep things simple, I'm going to make brown rice, but you can pretty much cook any type of rice you prefer. To a medium-sized saucepan over high heat, we'll place 2 cups of water, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and a teaspoon of kosher salt. We'll cover it with a lid and bring it to a boil. Then we'll add a cup of rinsed and drained brown rice. Both jasmine and brown rice would work here. Put the lid on, turn the heat down to low, and let it simmer for 30 minutes or until all of the liquid is absorbed. While the rice is cooking, we'll arrange the chicken thighs that we marinated earlier on a parchment-lined baking sheet and pop them in a preheated 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius oven. We'll bake them for about 15 minutes or until the internal temperature of the chicken reaches 165 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll cover that with foil and let that cool on the counter. Once cooled, we'll cut the chicken into bite-sized pieces and set them aside. But wait, don't turn your oven off just yet, because next we'll make everyone's favorite pita chips. While you can serve your Cava bowl with regular pita, I think pita chips add a welcome crunch, and to be honest, every time I go there, I ask for more because they're addictive. To make it, we'll brush 2 whole pitas with 2 tablespoons of olive oil on both sides. Then we'll cut them into 8 triangles. We'll then transfer them onto a baking sheet lined with parchment paper, sprinkle them with 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt and 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. We'll give them a good toss and pop them in the oven and bake them, tossing once halfway through the process. Then we'll set them aside to cool for a few minutes. Okay guys, we're in the final stretch. Now that pretty much everything is ready to go, let's talk about toppings. You can go as creative as you want here, but I usually cut up some cherry tomatoes, a couple of cucumbers, some pitted Kalamata olives. If it's summer, grill some corn, and I usually add some spring mix for some extra freshness. But again, you can use whatever you have on hand. When it is time to assemble, we'll grab a couple of bowls and start layering with some rice at the bottom, followed by some harissa honey chicken and a handful of spring mix. Then we'll start adding the condiments we made earlier, starting with a scoop of hummus, a scoop of crazy feta, a spoonful of tzatziki, some pickled red onions, and whatever toppings you have on hand. I'll also add some tomatoes, cucumber, corn, and Kalamata olives. Finally, we'll finish it off with a drizzle of harissa dressing and add a few pita chips on the side. You can of course enjoy this right away or assemble it in meal prep bowls to enjoy throughout the week. Cava bowls are also fantastic for entertaining. You can make all the components of the recipe, place them in bowls, and serve them buffet style, where your guests can assemble their own bowls. I have done that several times in the past and it was always a big hit. So there you have it, friends. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. As I mentioned earlier, we put all of these recipes in a free ebook which you can download from the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. The beauty of it, man, there's a bug here. Go. Wait, let me say that again. That was not good. Freaking bug.